Hello everybody, it's Dr. Stuart Allen Swordlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swordlow.
And this is the Expansions news video, vlog, podcast, whatever you want to call it, for the last days of January 2021. And this is a very, I won't say difficult, I'll say challenging one for me because of information that I have to give you. I had 2 days of debriefing by military intelligence. You know who that may be. Again, I cannot verify any of it. I will just tell you what I was told to tell you. But before I go into all of that, I need to explain some background, some history, so that you understand the reason for what I'm going to tell you. And it's going to be, some of you may have seen this or heard this already, and some of you, it may be new, but you can verify it all, look it up yourselves. And so, on March 4th, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated for the second term of office. And by the way, his second term of office and his inauguration was delayed for 5 years. From 1860 to 1865, because of the end of the Civil War, and also going back even further in history, on March 4th, 1789, the Constitution of the United States went into effect as the first federal Congress met in New York. And most people also don't know that New York City was the first capital of the United States, and then Philadelphia and then Washington. And that's going to be an interesting history for what I'm going to tell you now. And so, as you know, the Civil War was very expensive, and it bankrupted the government of the United States, which was a republic. Remember? And to the republic for which it stands, we salute the flag. So they were so bankrupt that in 1871, the US government had to do something to get money. And so, under a new corporate contract, they transferred the United States of America, the Republic of the United States, to a corporation of the United States of America. And basically the people lost the power and the Constitution to the new corporation. And it placed the citizens of the United States as property of the corporation, which was centered in Washington, D.C. Now understand that under the Constitution, and when the country was set up in 1776, Washington, D.C. Didn't really exist as the capital then. However, when Washington, D.C. was built, it was a federal district. It was the District of Columbia, and it was an agency for the states, so that each of the states was like a separate country. And the Constitution says that every state can have its own currency and its own army, just like a country in Europe or a country anywhere else in the world. So basically, the United States is united little countries that are using an agency of the District of Columbia as their liaison to the rest of the world and to each other. That's basically what Washington, D.C. is about. And so this agreement that the government transferred the republic to a corporation, it made Washington, D.C. a foreign entity on American soil of sovereign states. And it was established through a loan from the Vatican, and the District of Columbia was transferred into a city-state. Now the Vatican, of course, had a lot of money, and the Vatican, you can read this in my book, I believe it's in True World History, and it's in was it Blue Blood, True Blood, or one of the others. You can find it. I don't know where all my information is in all my books, but it's in True World History and Blue Blood, True Blood. And so in order to get a loan from the Vatican, they had to use the Bank of London, because the Bank of London Britain is actually owned by the Vatican. Because you remember in 1213, I think it was, the English couldn't pay their taxes to the Vatican, so the Vatican assumed all the control and owned Britain, but the royal family was allowed to administer Britain. This is why when Trump went overseas, he went to the Vatican and to London.
And walked in front of the Queen.
And walked in front of the Queen. That was significant. Hopefully, I might get to that.
Even though they made fun of him.
They always make fun of. They make fun of anyone who tells the truth. So at the time, they transferred the property of District of Columbia to the corporate entity of District of Columbia. It became a foreign corporation. So when President Trump, now we fast forward to 2018, when President Trump signed an executive order in 2018 on election interference/fraud for entities both foreign and domestic. It outlined how the assets should be seized. The president and the people knew and had the proof that a coup transpired out of the corporation of the United States of America, along with other foreign nations, and was ignored by the corporation in DC. They continued with their legal steal, and the military is now in the process of seizing the assets of this foreign country known as the Corporation of the United States of America. It's not the Republic, it's corporation, two separate countries. So it appears that President Trump's executive order was actually directed at Washington, D.C., corporate swamp cabal, and that the District of Columbia is now walled in and filled with military guard. And I'm going to talk about that when I'm done with this history part. President Trump moved out permanently because he cannot be president over a sovereign nation in a foreign land. And the White House and the Capitol are technically in a foreign country. So, when Donald Trump exited the White House, Washington, D.C. was locked down because it will not be possible for a foreign ruler to rule over a sovereign country. Therefore, the foreign ruler must be locked out. In this case, that would be the new administration. Keep that in your head. The city of London, that's basically 1 square mile within Greater London, is technically not part of England or London, just as the Vatican is not part of Rome or Italy. Likewise, Washington, D.C. is not part of the United States that it controls. These three entities have one goal, and that is to do away with the old world order of sovereign nations and usher in a new global order under one government rule and dictatorship. The governments of the United States, Canada, and Britain are subsidiaries of the Crown, as is the Federal Reserve in the United States. So Washington, D.C. was established as a city-state in 1871 with the passage of the Act of 1871, which officially established the United States as a corporation under the rule of Washington, which itself is subservient to the City of London, and which is subservient further up the line to the Vatican. The fact is that the president is nothing more than a figurehead for the central bankers and the transnational corporations, and most of you know this already. Washington, D.C. operates under a system of Roman law and is outside of the limitations established by the U.S. Constitution. So, to conclude and wrap this into a paragraph, the corporation called Washington, D.C. is now a foreign entity on American soil of sovereign states. It was established through a loan from the Vatican when Washington, D.C. was transferred into a city-state and a corporate entity. It is now under siege for interfering with the elections of the people of the United States, along with the Vatican and the other foreign nations who interfered, such as Germany, Italy, China, Venezuela, Iran, and so on. They are now considered to be enemies of the state, and their assets will be seized. our military has already been taking down many of these people, and there have been arrests being made. And so, having said all that as a background and a history, and all of that you can verify and look up, if they haven't blocked that on the internet, I spent a bit of time talking to my contact. And as I have told you in the past, I can't swear to you that I can verify who the person is. I only know that they say who they are. And I have been commissioned, authorized, whatever word you want to use my own words to tell you what this person has told me. And you can decide for yourself if it's true or not. And as I told you last time, we have to find out together, because I can't swear that all of this is true. However, I can tell you that everything I have asked this person personally has come true. And this person has offered information and said words to me that I never even said to Janet. They were in my head, but the person knew them. That was interesting. And so I have a bit of information to share with you. They're in no particular order. I just wrote them down quickly as I got them. And so I can tell you, bottom line, as a let's say cover to all of this, that the administration you see now in Washington is not real. It's a fake government. And the images that you see, signing executive orders, the Oval Office, that's all a movie studio.
Did you see where one time he signed with one hand, and then in 2008 when he was actually vice president, supposedly, he signed with the other hand?
Yes,
we have
we don't
lots
know
of-
if that's the same person, by the way. Remember, his eyes used to be blue, now they're black. And he's not well. Actually, I can tell you, there are images on the internet you can look at. The curtains behind him are not the curtains that were there a couple days ago when President Trump was in. The wallpaper is different, the furniture is different, the scenery outside the window is different. It's not the same location. So, very strange something going on. I was told by my contact that there are 250 to 260 Marine military vessels off both the east and west coasts of the United States. They're ours, by the way. And they are within 5 miles of the coast. And so the contact said to me, "Why do you think they're so close, Stuart?" And I said, "Because they're going to invade." He said, "Very good job." He likes to say that to me, "Very good job." I said, "Okay, they're going to invade their own country." Or actually, not the country, because we now know Washington is a foreign country. Keep that in mind. He told me that the inauguration that you saw on television was actually filmed 3 weeks earlier. And if you do watch the film, you can see that the so-called live film was jumpy, stopped, looped back, then went forward. That's not live. And also, the weather on the inauguration day was cloudy, but during this filming, it was sunny. And Google Satellite, Google themselves, if you Googled Washington, D.C. on that moment, it was empty. Nobody there. So, and by the way, they inaugurated Kamala Harris first, which is actually not part of the plan. That's always the president goes first. Mm-hmm. And they said the inauguration would happen at noon. It happened at 11:45. Which,
some people said actually 17 minutes
yeah,
before.
it doesn't make sense that it was filmed or broadcast so early. And I was told that the deep state wants Harris to be president, not Biden. He's just a prop that they threw up there. I was told Biden cannot issue, because I said, how could this be true? We saw him signing these executive orders. Well, he said they cannot issue executive orders because he's not the president and they cannot be enforced. and that there are no executive orders now listed on the Federal Register, which they're listed immediately after a president signs them. They're listed. Biden has 0.
That was interesting because there were 17, and then I recently saw something on the social media where it showed him signing it, and they claimed that what he signed was actually blank.
Yeah, but I heard that, but if you look, it's not
You
blank.
can see.
It is writing there.
All right, because I couldn't tell.
The only thing blank was his head. Now, I said, why don't you say something to the American people? Why don't you announce all of this publicly? And he said, we need to keep people safe by pretending that there's a new president. Because if we do what we're going to do abruptly, it would be very dangerous for a lot of people. Because, you know, when you corner a wild animal, they attack viciously. Now, he said the Capitol building and the White House are surrounded by fences. Nobody can get in. And it's interesting that on the film where they showed Biden and his fake wife walking into they use the service entrance, not the main door. They use a service entrance surrounded by Marines, and the Marines did not salute them. And what's her face, Jill, extended her gloved hand out, and they didn't respond. They just ignored her. And you can hear Biden walking and saying, salute the Marines, salute the Marines, salute. Like he has an earpiece and they're telling him to salute, but he's so senile, instead of doing it, he just repeated it.
And they turned their back on him.
Yeah, there's a whole video of them turning their back on him. So we are under military rule, and that will be announced at the right time. I was told there is a real World War III in progress. There is a real war in progress right now. I was told Biden is very sick. I told you he entered the service entrance. The District of Columbia will no longer be the capital of the United States. A new one will be coming, and the White House will no longer be the White House. It is foreign property, and it is no longer part of America. The March 4 date is extremely important because I told you in 1789, that's when the Constitution went into effect. And in 1865, that's when President Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated as second office. So the third March 4th will be this March 4th, 2021, when the new Republic of the United States will be announced, and the military will hold a new election for the people of the United States without Dominion fraud fake machines. You will also notice on the film of the inauguration that there's a Chinese man shadowing Biden. Who is he? Not bringing up takeout, I'll tell you right now. So, the Pentagon has blocked the Biden team from getting information. I was told the White House is now a prison. You can go in, but you can't get out. It's like the Hotel California. You can check in, but you can't check out. Well, you can if you go up to so-and-so. No one can leave the District of Columbia without a press pass. I was told to tell everybody, do not try to enter Washington, D.C., because you may never get out of there. Do not go to Washington, D.C. now at all. Arrests are being made, and I was told that Michelle / Michael Obama
Shim.
was a shim and is a no-show. She didn't show up because she knew she was not going to get out. And they're looking for her. Now, here's the weird thing, people. The morning of this what did I call it, a debriefing that I got, I didn't know I was getting the debriefing that day. I had no anticipation of that call. And so I woke up in the morning, and I remembered in 1973, my aunt and uncle, who have passed on, of course, they took me to Washington, D.C., and Arlington National Cemetery, all those places, Smithsonian, went to all those places. And I woke up thinking, the best place I liked was the Lincoln Memorial. I don't know why, I just liked it. When I was getting my debriefing, he said to me, center on the Lincoln Memorial. I think, how did you know that I was in my head this morning. This is very freaky, people. I have to tell you, this is very freaky. And so the other interesting thing is when President Trump left, he took the suitcase with all the nuclear codes with him to Florida. So if he's not president, how could he take the nuclear codes with him? And Nancy Pants knew it, and that's why she wanted the codes. Remember, she called the defense secretary to give her the codes, which is actually treasonous, because she knew he was still president and he was taking the codes, and she wanted to give it to. Well, she wouldn't give it to senile old man, but she'd probably keep it herself.
Well, technically, he was president till noon, and he left at 8.
Yes, but actually, he really is still president. Well, the military is, but they are supporting him. So, people, that's what I had to tell you about what's going on. You know, watch the videos yourself. Look at the images from the White House. You will see for yourself and decide for yourself. I only tell you what I'm told.
Isn't there supposed to be a time when everything is going to go black?
He said to me that when the internet goes out and the news services go off, then you'll know what's happening. And that may be around the March 4th time period. You know, it's not going to go. And so on March 5th, if none of this happened, then I'll say, you know what? Everybody, the CNN was right. What am I going to tell you? I can only tell you what I'm told. And I was asked to give you this information. Now, bringing it back to, may I continue?
Do I have a choice? If I say no, you're going to stop?
No, but I'll give you a choice anyway, and
I would
just keep talking.
Of course you can talk.
Because I want to talk about Governor Whitmer. You know what she did, the lovely little thing she is?
I don't know now.
Governor Whitmer confirmed that restaurants in Michigan can open February 1st, but with restrictions. Of course, she has to throw in restrictions. What are the restrictions? Well, the restaurants can open at 25% capacity with up to 100 people because the virus knows that there's 101 people, they can attack them.
Well,
it's a very smart virus.
Very smart.
And the tables must be 6 feet apart with no more than 6 people per table. It's like 6, 6, and you know the 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the virus knows if it's more than 6 feet, less than 6, we can get them.
666.
Yeah, right? And if there's more than 6 people, the virus knows and it gets them. So, also, the bars and restaurants must close by 10 p.m. because at 10:01, the virus comes out.
That's right. I heard that too.
Comes out at 10:01 every night.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very brilliant Chinese virus. But here's the kicker. Contact information must be collected from people for contact tracing purposes. So you go to the restaurant, you have to write your name, your address, your blah, blah, everything. I'm not going to do that. No way. Now here's even funnier, because it's January. What's outside on the ground? Snow, right? Mm-hmm. And was it cold today? Mm-hmm. It was very cold today. So Whitmer said outdoor tents
a lot of people are doing that.
with 4 sides are permitted under these rules.
Yeah.
Of course.
So like people said, well, you can't eat inside, but you can make an inside-outside and then go inside the outside.
I want to see Whitmer eat outside in the tent in January in Michigan.
They do have that, actually. A lot of the restaurants are doing this.
Come on.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
I don't want to, but a lot of people
And so the
are.
question is, so if it's a tent, the virus doesn't ever go in a tent.
Right.
It doesn't like tents.
Right.
It only likes the inside of the restaurant.
Now you understand the science.
You know what? Fauci must be brilliant.
Yes. They're all
Yeah,
brilliant.
he knows that the virus knows, a tent. I cannot go in tent. I can only go inside restaurant. That's what the virus says. It's a talking virus. It has a little rule. You're 6 feet apart. I cannot touch you. Get over yourself, okay, Missy? Also, and this should be very comforting to you, Michigan is offering a program to allow restaurants to become certified under the Michigan COVID-19 Safer Dining Program, which will inspect their ventilation system to show they're optimizing airflow, even though you can't breathe that airflow because you have a freaking mask on your face. And once certified, the businesses will be featured on a state website with flowers and birds singing, that you can go there and sit in a tent outside in Michigan in January.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, very ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, let's talk about Florida. Look, you know what? I have a lot of respect for Florida right now. I really do.
Well, they're not doing all this stuff.
No, they're open. They're like people. But people in South Florida reported they felt their homes shaking like an earthquake.
Well, that's not unusual.
It is actually quite unusual because...
They're on limestone.
Okay, you're not paying attention. Florida is known for having the fewest earthquakes in the U.S. because it's not located near any tectonic plate boundaries at all. And earthquakes are very rare in Florida.
I remember many years ago there was an earthquake down there, and I called a USGS.
Will you let me finish the freaking story?
Well, I'm telling you that it's...
Well, let me tell you to be quiet so I can finish my story, okay? Okay, thank you.
My story's more interesting.
No, it's not. They said sliding glass doors and windows shook violently. But I have to say this, because it's Florida.
I'm going to shake you violently.
No, listen, it's Florida, and they're elderly people, so it could have been like a mass stroke or like Parkinson's disease, like struck at once. Shaking. It could have been that. It's Florida. Ugh, I'm telling you. And guess what, people? Someone's birthday is on Monday, the 25th, and you're going to be an elderly person.
I've been an elderly person according to ARC for many years.
Maybe you're going to start feeling earthquakes soon.
No, you're going to start feeling the earthquake soon when I start shaking you violently.
Well, that happens every day anyway.
Well, you like that.
I do, because it just loosens me up all over. Thank you. Anyway, the United States Geological Survey said that there was no activity in South Florida, but there was a 5.9 magnitude earthquake in Guatemala's capital that day. That's like, how many thousands of miles away from... Like, that makes sense, USGS. They get paid to say those things. But there was a magnitude 4 earthquake near the Florida-Alabama state line. That's way north from Miami. And to verify what you said, on January 28, 2020, so a year ago, buildings in Miami had to be evacuated because of a 7.7 earthquake off the coast of Jamaica that affected South Florida. So you're right about that.
I'm right about a lot of things.
Yeah, not this one though. Anyway, speaking of the weather, so cold and snowy, blah, blah, blah.
By the way, look what I found under your paperwork. True World History that I wanted to show them earlier. You were hiding it.
Yes, because Twitter told me not to show it.
Yeah.
So, what's going on with the world's weather? You think there's global warming? You think there's global warming?
Of course there is.
Well, how about there is snow and ice in the Sahara Desert and snow in Saudi Arabia with a temperature drop to 28 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 3 Celsius? That doesn't sound very erratic, does it?
Mm-mm.
No. And where do our dogs come from? Yakutia region of eastern Russia. And they had a temperature drop of 40 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, which is the same in Celsius. And they actually had a warm-up to minus 24, like a hot spell. But unfortunately, this week, the temperature dropped to minus 73 degrees below 0.
I don't think they keep the kids home from school in that region unless it's like minus 50.
They don't have kids, you know why? Because all their parts are frozen, they can't get pregnant. Mm-hmm.
You're so brilliant.
I know. And guess where else they had snow? New Zealand. And guess why that's strange? It's summer in New Zealand.
Even up in the mountains?
The summer all over. It doesn't matter, mountains, it's winter up here, but summer. That's why you're not a pilot, okay? Anyway, so a cold snap brought 8 centimeters of snow to the Cardrona Alpine Resort in the South Island. South Island is closer to Antarctica, but it's still summer. So it's snowing in summer in New Zealand, and guess what? Antarctica, the beginning of 2021, that's January, they have unusually cold weather for January. And remember, January is the middle of summer in Antarctica, and they are freezing cold. And that's because, as I've mentioned to you before, there's a solar minimum happening, and the sun is sliding into it, and it's devoid of sunspots for months or even years. And the result will be the Earth's climate will be one of the violent swings between extremes. The weakening of the jet streams, bursts of heat will linger in one area while chattering chill will dominate in other areas nearby, and then they'll switch. Crops will fail on a large scale, and famine could quickly ensue. And Earth's temperature trends colder during the grand solar minimum as the sun output is lower and lower. Antarctica's unusual cold is having an impact on its sea ice, because now there's more ice in Antarctica in the summer than there has been since 1978.
I can explain that. Global warming. More ice.
And the Arctic on the top of the planet is also now growing the ice exponentially. And in conclusion, they said the global ice in the Arctic and Antarctic combined is now greater than any time since 2016, and it shows no signs of getting smaller. And so the year 2021 is going to give warmongers ahead, and warmongers too. Yeah. So I'm done.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, thank God. Oh, I'm sorry, elderly lady who's going to need Social Security on Monday.
So I have a weather term, since you like weather, that I'm wondering if you've heard. Have you heard of mine effect snow?
M-I-N-E?
Yes.
Is that where you mine snow?
Kind of. I have never heard of it, and we keep telling you, they keep making up these terms and putting it out here. So this is mine effect snow. This is in Marquette County here in Michigan, and it's a weather phenomena that's due to the kiln from the Tilden mine.
What the heck is that?
The Tilden mine up in Marquette County was operational, allowing the hot air to mix with the cold atmospheric conditions,
What
creating
hot air?
a snow cloud. A hot air from the
mine?
Tilden mine mixed with the cold air and made a snow cloud. Now, do you believe that?
So it made a cloud that made snow come down?
Yes. And guess what? Mines are not the only places that can unintentionally create this kind of weather phenomena. From cooling towers at power plants to cases where large wastewater treatment plants can act as enough of a heat source to billow up some clouds and actually can produce some very narrow swaths of snow downstream from them.
Blah, 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 blah.
Who knew? Mine affect snow.
Well,
So
that's like a few years ago they said we were having an ice quake.
yeah,
Remember that?
snowquakes.
They call it ice quake.
Icequake too?
Yeah.
All these terms that they just make up. This is to keep you confused. And now, back to the election front. Mike Huckabee said that Kamala Harris should face impeachment over her comments on the riots that rocked the country this summer in light of President Trump's impeachment.
Well, you can't impeach someone who's not in office, really.
He said, if we're going to impeach Donald Trump for what he said, then we better impeach Kamala Harris for saying the things she did last summer about the rioters and the looters.
Oh, by the way, she never moved into the vice presidential mansion.
Oh yeah, I read that she did.
Oh, she did? I
That's
heard
what
that
I
she
read.
hasn't moved in.
Well, maybe they showed where she was going to live. Maybe
Yeah, and they
that's
said,
what
oh, she's
did.
not moving in because they're going to renovate it.
Oh, that I hadn't heard. Anyway, she even established a monetary fund to get the rioters and looters out of jail or bail them so they could get back to the riots.
That was considerate of
So
her.
if we're going to play this game, everybody should have a turn. The fund was used to pay bail for rioters and protesters and help bail out violent felons, including a man accused of raping a young girl. So this is what Kamala Harris sponsored.
Well, she's been known for that when she was in California.
Yeah. And then, of course, now maybe you heard that in Portland, Oregon, there were black-clad activists with their faces covered. This was on January 20th, the supposed day of inauguration. They broke windows and the glass door at the Democratic Party of Oregon business office, spray-painted anarchist symbols over the party sign, tipped over garbage containers, and lit the contents on fire, saying, "We don't want Biden. We want revenge for police murders, imperialist wars, and fascist massacres."
So let me understand. The first time they did this, they were against Trump. Now they're against Biden,
Yes.
who actually helped pay for them.
Yes. and they carried a banner saying, "We are not governable," and it was dotted with anarchy signs.
And you know what happens to people who are not governable? Execution.
In Seattle, Antifa activists marched through Pike Place Market.
That's where you used to go.
I know, and I love Pike Place Market. They smashed up property, they broke windows, and a group of black-clad activists marched through the street, kicked over garbage cans, carried a tattered American flag with anarchy signs spray painted on that. They spray painted buildings with anarchist symbols. They smashed windows, including a federal building called the William Kenzo Nakamura Courthouse. And they carried banners that said, "No cops, no prisons, no borders, no presidents."
Yeah, let's just have complete chaos all the time.
Yep, and in Denver, communist and anti-fascist demonstrators set fire to American flags near the state capitol.
Yeah, that's helpful.
They spray painted graffiti onto storefronts, and there were members of the anti-capitalist Brown Berets. Never heard of them, did you?
Yes, they're like the brown shirts of the Nazis.
Okay, activists marched in Columbus, Ohio, and in Sacramento, California. Antifa members wielded clubs during the march, and they had signs that said "No prisons, no walls, no USA at all." And the fact that one figurehead was traded for another on the 20th does not matter to us, according to a message posted on their website. I'm surprised they're allowed to have a website. The president's not allowed to talk, but they can.
Well, guess what? The president's starting his own news service soon.
The
real president.
The real president. The website said this does nothing to combat the white supremacy that the U.S. was built on, does nothing to stop its current white supremacist project. While we do not care about the damage done to the Capitol building in D.C. on January 6th, we recognize it as an outgrowth of the racist rage that has been building and organizing for years. And many of them carry Black Lives Matter signs and banners, and demonstrators toppled over the fencing at the Sacramento County District Attorney's office.
Every black person I know is against them.
Yes. Just like most white people I know, I'd say like 100%, are against the Ku Klux Klan. And top Democrats who have been outspoken about far-right violence were silent when these leftist extremists vandalized the Portland, Oregon headquarters of the Democratic Party. Vocal members from the Democratic Party, including Congresswomen Cori Bush, Ayanna Pressley, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Those are real nice people.
Biden, Pelosi, Chuck Schumer have not publicly condemned the vandalism to their party's Portland headquarters.
Because they're possessed by demonic entities.
Democratic Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler also remains silent.
He's a brilliant.
And they, among all other Democrats, previously condemned far-right extremist activities, especially the riot at the U.S. Capitol building January 6th, but they didn't say anything about this. Portland's crowd actually moved to the local Democratic Party building where they shattered windows, moved dumpsters, lit them on fire, and members of the crowd demanded revenge in response to police brutality and imperialist wars.
Meanwhile, they're the ones being the brutality.
Yes. There were no official statements from the Democrats that deemed the demonstrations to be acts of terrorism, and the only official response to the incident came from the Democratic Party of Oregon that said, "We're frustrated and disappointed."
A little bit too late now, stupid people.
Yeah. And now, Noor bin Laden, now I've spoken about her once before, Noor bin Laden, she's the niece of Osama bin Laden.
Right, she supports President Trump.
Yes, she said, "How ironic that I spent the past 20 years of my life condemning Islamic terrorism and rejecting what my name stands for, only to be compared to these very terrorists, all for the great crime of supporting the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who himself has done more to fight the scourge that is Islamic terrorism than any other president in modern history."
You know what? I respect her, and I understand how she feels because of my family being, a source of communism and actually creating Soviet Union. And here I am trying to stop and block communism, and I'm attacked for that.
Yes. She goes on to say that the ones making the comparison are the throngs of so-called tolerant leftists who've decided that because of the storming of the U.S. Capitol, every Trump supporter is a veritable Al-Qaeda terrorist, Ku Klux Klan member, white supremacist, you name it. And apparently Obama-era General Stanley A. McChrystal implied that the Make America Great movement itself is no different than Al-Qaeda. Isn't that awful? Sadly, she says, we've almost grown accustomed to the insults, bullying, yelling, and harassment.
Yes, right, from my own family.
The Hitler and Nazi comparisons are so frequent that they have become banal, never mind the president's repeatedly ignored condemnations of white supremacy or his stellar record with minority groups. However, this past week, the president's detractors reached a new despicable low even by their own standards. The wickedness is enough to make one's head spin, and all the lies must stop. So, a pretty strong statement from her.
Good. I'd like to meet her one day. I think that she's brilliant and she's brave.
And in Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton warned Biden, I should say. Of course, we know it's kind of fake, but it's still out there. He warned Biden that he will fight against the many unconstitutional and illegal actions that the new administration will take. And he announced a lawsuit against the Biden administration's halt on the deportation of illegal immigrants. And according to his complaint and motion for a temporary restraining order in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas, he says, in one of its first of dozens of steps that harm Texas and the nation as a whole, the Biden administration directed Department of Homeland Security to violate federal immigration law and breach an agreement to consult and cooperate with Texas on that law. Our state defends the largest section of the southern border in the nation.
That's right.
Failure to properly enforce the law will directly and immediately endanger our citizens and law enforcement personnel. DHS itself has previously acknowledged that such a freeze on deportations will cause concrete injuries to Texas. I am confident that these unlawful and perilous actions cannot stand. The rule of law and security of our citizens must prevail. So that's the first. So
I like Texas. Now here again, 2 times, Florida and Texas. I like them now. Like, what the heck?
What a surprise.
Seriously.
And it says some of the Republican far-right talk of a coming civil war. And warlike...
What coming? It is already.
I know. Warlike imagery has begun spreading in Republican circles after the attack on the U.S. Capitol. In northwestern Wisconsin, the chairman of the St. Croix, I'm not sure how they say that. St. Croix County Republican Party was forced to resign after refusing for a week after the siege to remove an online post urging followers to prepare for war. And here in Michigan, the incoming chairman of the Michigan GOP and her husband, a state lawmaker, have joined a conservative social media site created after the Capitol riot where the possibility of civil war is a topic. And Phil Reynolds, a member of the GOP Central Committee in California's Santa Clara County, declared on social media, "The war has begun. Citizens take arms. Drumroll, please. Civil war or no civil war." So.
You know that Wisconsin and Michigan are twin states?
Are we?
Yeah, except Michigan is the pretty one.
That's what I figured.
That's why I live here.
Yeah. And did you know that the Dutch government resigned over a child welfare fraud scandal? Apparently, there were thousands of families wrongly accused of child welfare fraud, and Dutch Prime Minister announced the cabinet's resignation in an address this past week, saying that the responsibility for the scandal ultimately rests with the incumbent cabinet and nowhere else.
There's a lot of governments that resigned.
Yes, the Kuwaiti government resigned.
Estonia.
There's a lot of them.
Libya.
A lot of things are
Lebanon.
changing right now.
Yes.
And U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo officially declared China's treatment of the Uyghurs in East Turkestan to be crimes against humanity and a genocide.
Well, that is.
He determined that the People's Republic of China is committing genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang, China, targeting Uyghur Muslims and members of other ethnic and religious minority groups. These acts are an affront to the Chinese people and to civilized nations everywhere.
That's the truth.
The People's Republic of China and the CCP must be held to account.
No, they must be eliminated. CCP must be eliminated.
But that's a pretty strong statement because this has been going on for a long time. And now that we finally have an official statement.
I remember when I was in
like
China, I met Uyghur people. They were very nice people.
Okay.
And they tried to assimilate into Chinese, society.
Well, they have been discriminated
But they weren't allowed,
against.
really.
Exactly. Washington State, my homeland.
Yeah.
So several
A lot of cuckoo
Republicans.
people come out of there.
Several Republicans, including Rob Chase, Tom Dent, Robert Sutherland, and McCaslin, I don't have a first name for him, proposed a bill in 2021 that would have Eastern Washington secede to form a separate and independent state known as Liberty.
Listen, there's nobody there. It looks like the surface of the moon.
That's why it needs its own state.
No, it needs to they should be lucky they're part of anything.
I love Eastern Washington.
I mean, really.
The idea of an Eastern Washington secession movement is nothing new. It falls all the way back to the 1860s with an effort to create the territory of Walla Walla. However,
I rest my case. You are like a Walla Walla,
Walla
okay?
Walla is the name of an Indian tribe.
I know,
Did
but
you know that?
you live near there.
They were the Walla Walla Indians. There's no reason to believe it'll move any further than it has in past years because the bill, however, was still read in front of the state's House Committee on State Government and Tribal Relations, as it is almost every
So
session.
when you worked for the governor of Washington,
Yeah.
did they want to secede where you lived from?
Yeah.
Yeah?
There was always movements to secede every year. They wanted to secede. They wanted to join the northern panhandle of Idaho,
Oh, that's another big
and
spot.
sometimes down in eastern Oregon. We were all kind of the same.
Okay, listen to me. So 3 empty nothing places wanted to join forces to be a big empty nothing place.
It's a beautiful empty nothing place.
Yes, but there's nothing. They need to be part of something.
No, because their politics over on the west side are so different than this area. Totally different.
There's like 5 people living
Doesn't
there.
matter. I could be president there.
I rest my case.
There you go. I could be president. And did you know, speaking of the coronavirus, in
Actually,
France,
coronavirus.
in France, is a movement for one factory that makes hygiene products for the Swedish company Essity
Ooh.
to force factory workers to wear social distancing devices that emit a loud noise like a dog collar if they stand too close. So in other words, we couldn't sit like this. We would like be emitting noises back and forth at each other.
Well, you are emitting noises. man.
You're emitting noises. It's just not a loud one. Not loud enough. So if you had this badge to be worn around the neck or waist would go off if you're not 2 meters or 6 feet distance apart from each other. But the French Union condemned the dog collar as an attack on individual liberty.
Yes, it is.
I would say so.
Well, although I said it in French, though.
Yeah. And he says, the union says the contraptions were anxiety inducing and there were no known cases of infection among the workers, and they voiced fears that the company would seek to keep the system in place for security even once the coronavirus pandemic is over.
It is over. It never existed.
The gadget's Belgian manufacturer's Data, or Data as you say,
It is that.
reportedly said that 90 or 95% of the workforce would need to wear the devices for them to be effective. So, of course, once they start it, then they leave everything in place, as we well know.
They should wear the collar you put on me all the time.
They should put the collar on themselves and not the workers, people who want to do this. The Germans, did you hear about this one now? They are now going to hold quarantine breakers in refugee camps and detention centers after they have been fined and they still do whatever.
Yeah, that'll
they
go
do.
over well.
Yeah. Now, here's one that will go over really well. This is a new AI app that will allow banks to deny or approve loan applicants by screening their face and their voices to determine if they're trustworthy. Doesn't that sound? So they ask them 10 questions, and then they use your facial and voice cues to calculate a score. And guess what the name of this company is?
Dominion.
Deep Score.
Ooh.
Deep State, Deep Score. And they say that this is a next generation scoring machine for loan lenders, insurance companies, and other financial
So
institutions.
what if you have like a nervous tick,
That's what they said.
or you have a problem with your sinuses, and your facial recognition says, oh, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's heat coming
Yeah.
out.
I would
You know,
be nervous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it says that the Deep Score says when you tell a lie, you feel stressed, your eye and mouth moves, and your voice skews.
Excuse me, I'm like that all the time, and I'm not lying.
If the app believes that the customer replied dishonestly, it alerts the companies to fee increases or additional examinations. Sounds like,
Think you have to pay extra for lying?
or pay extra if you're nervous.
That's
maybe.
hysterical.
And this next one to me is hysterical. This one is suggesting that people who are problem gamblers, shopaholics, compulsive eaters, among other things, could have their brains retuned by zapping them with electricity.
Or just hit them on the head with a brick.
And they're calling this a non-invasive technique.
That's non-invasive,
Yeah.
zapping you with electricity.
That's what they're calling it, and they're saying that it's better than drugs that produce disappointing outcomes and side
Hey,
effects.
how about therapy?
Yeah, I
And
guess
changing your mind pattern.
Yeah.
That'd be a little helpful.
that would be very helpful. Read our book so you don't have to do this
Yeah.
zapping thing.
Right. Otherwise, I'd zap you.
You would zap.
I'd zap you.
Yeah, zap you. Or you could read a book. Be less painful. To me, that's invasive being zapped. And now on the last bit of good news for the country, guess who now owns the largest farmland?
I already
most
know the
farmland?
answer to that.
Who?
Man, Linda, and Jill.
Yes. Their portfolio comprises about 242,000 acres of farmland, 27,000 acres of other land across 19 states, with the biggest chunks of their land holdings in Louisiana and Arkansas. And in my home state, he owns 16,000 acres,
But
apparently.
he lives there.
Yeah, but it's also my home state. He usurped it. I was there first. And the nation's largest landowner in general is Liberty Media Chairman John Malone, who has 2.2 million acres. And I want to remind you that he who controls the food supply controls the people.
That's why you're the owner of this house.
Yeah, because I control
own
the food
supply
That's
here,
right.
and I have to hope that I get some.
Yeah, you do, because you're very malnourished.
I am. I'm wasting away.
I can see. Remember, Heights of Wealth is out. We only have a few more days for the pre-published price, which I'm still extending to you till the end of January. We'll begin shipping. Well, actually, I started because it got in early, so I've already started shipping. But at midnight, January 31st, you cannot get the pre-pub price anymore. Heights of Relationship is another one of our new books, and as Stuart has mentioned, this is a fabulous series.
I did mention that.
Yeah, because we talked about addictions and stuff, working on your mind pattern. So use these two books right here, and I mean, we have everything for body, mind,
You got
and soul.
everything what you want.
That's right. And remember, our webinars now, our Dark to Light webinars are now out. You can buy the pre-recordings if that you want, or not pre-recordings.
It's a
pay-per-view, PPV, something like that. Pay-per-view of the ones we've already
Not
done
the
to catch you
CCP,
out.
but the PPP.
Yeah, no, the PPV. So you can get those. We have study guides, which are really great. I'm really happy with the way those have turned out. And of course, you want to remember this wonderful series, which will help bring you up to speed on the webinars, the revelations of time and space, history and God, King Bee, Queen Bee, Template of God Mind, and of course, Heights of
I'll
Spirituality.
have to wait for yours in there.
Mine at the end because it's very thick. See? Lots of good info in there.
Right.
Okay, so anything else you wanted to tell them?
Yes.
We told them enough?
I told them maybe too much.
Yeah, get your membership, expansions.com. We keep you up to date.
Yeah.
We have wonderful global discussions there from people all over the world.
And so, please think about what I told you about the history and the background about what's going on. We actually have two countries, two governments. One is fake, one's real. And March 4th, we'll see what happens. Like I said,
Well, it has to happen before then.
No.
I thought maybe
they said March 4th is the day it will be announced.
I thought like
Now, whether that's true or not, I can't swear to it.
I thought maybe it
we're
would all
gonna have to find
happen
out.
before, and the inauguration would be on March
Well,
4th.
I think that before we're going to see things happen that we go, what was that about? But I think the main thing won't be until March. So we'll see. I don't know.
We
I
don't-
can't tell you. I don't know. I only know what I'm told. I just tell you what I told. Right?
I don't know.
Old lady whose birthday is Monday. Know what I'm getting you for your birthday? A snowstorm.
All right, I like snow.
That's what you're going to get.
Okay,
A big snowstorm.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I like that. Are you going to shovel?
If my peeps don't show
Are you
up,
going to do a snow job?
I'm gonna have to. Ooh. I told you not to say that in public.
Snow job. Oh, remember, say no to mind control. Heights of deprogramming.
Don't hit that too hard. Your fingers are brittle now. You could break your fingers.
Yeah, right. So
Well,
until next time.
We'll see you next week.
Who
I
knows?
hope.
Who knows what we'll have to tell you then?
Yeah,
And
bye.
in between, get your membership, expansions.com.
Yes, and please, for the elderly, for her birthday, please.
Yeah, presents. Right?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye for now.